The sooner Congress acts, the more effective the oil conservation program will be, and the quicker the federal revenues can be returned to our people. I am prepared to use presidential authority to limit imports as necessary to guarantee success. I want you to know that before deciding on my energy conservation program, I considered rationing and higher gasoline taxes as alternatives. In my judgment, neither would achieve the desired results, and both would produce unacceptable inequities. A massive program must be initiated to increase energy supply, to cut demand and provide new standby emergency programs, to achieve the independence we want by 1985. The largest part of increased oil production must come from new frontier areas on the outer continental shelf and from the Naval Petroleum Reserve number 4 in Alaska. It is the intent of this administration to move ahead with exploration, leasing, and production on those frontier areas of the outer continental shelf where the environmental risks are acceptable. Use of our most abundant domestic resource, coal, is severely limited. We must strike a reasonable compromise on environmental concerns with coal. I am submitting clean air amendments which will allow greater coal use without sacrificing clean air goals. I vetoed the strip mining legislation passed by the last Congress. With appropriate changes, I will sign a revised version when it comes to the White House. I am proposing a number of actions to energize our nuclear power program. I will submit legislation to expedite nuclear leasing and the rapid selection of sites. In recent months, utilities have canceled or postponed over 60% of planned nuclear expansion and 30% of planned additions to non-nuclear capacity. Financing problems for that industry are worsening. I am therefore recommending that the one-year investment tax credit of 12% be extended an additional 2 years to specifically speed the construction of power plants that do not use natural gas or oil. I am also submitting proposals for selective reform of state utility commission regulations. To provide the critical stability for our domestic energy production in the face of world price uncertainty, I will request legislation to authorize and require tariffs, import quotas, or price floors to protect our energy prices at levels which will achieve energy independence. Increasing energy supplies is not enough. We must take additional steps to cut long-term consumption. I therefore propose to the Congress legislation to make thermal efficiency standards mandatory for all new buildings in the United States. A new tax credit of up to $150 for those homeowners who install insulation equipment. The establishment of an energy conservation program to help low-income families purchase insulation supplies. Legislation to modify and defer automotive pollution standards for 5 years, which will enable us to improve automobile gas mileage by 40% by 1980. These proposals and actions cumulatively can reduce our dependence on foreign energy supplies to 3 to 5 billion barrels per day by 1985. To make the United States invulnerable to foreign disruption, I propose standby emergency legislation, and a strategic storage program of 1 billion barrels of oil for domestic needs and 300 million barrels for national defense purposes. I will ask for the funds needed for energy research and development activities. I have established a goal of 1 million barrels of synthetic fuels and shale oil production per day by 1985, together with an incentive program to achieve it. I have a very deep belief in America's capabilities. Within the next 10 years, my program envisions 200 major nuclear power plants, 250 major new coal mines, 150 major coal-fired power plants, 30 major new refineries, 20 major new synthetic fuel plants, the drilling of many thousands of new oil wells, the insulation of 18 million homes, and the manufacturing and the sale of millions of new automobiles, trucks and buses that use much less fuel. I happen to believe that we can do it. In another crisis, the one in 1942, President Franklin D. Roosevelt said this country would build 60,000 military aircraft. By 1943, production in that program had reached 125,000 aircraft annually. They did it then. We can do it now. If the Congress and the American people will work with me to attain these targets, they will be achieved and will be surpassed. From adversity, let us seize opportunity. Revenues of some $30 billion from higher energy taxes designed to encourage conservation must be refunded to the American people in a manner which corrects distortions in our tax system wrought by inflation. People have been pushed into higher tax brackets by inflation with consequent reduction in their actual spending power. Business taxes are similarly distorted because inflation exaggerates reported profits, resulting in excessive taxes. Accordingly, I propose that future individual income taxes be reduced by $16.5 billion. This will be done by raising the low-income allowance and reducing tax rates. This continuing tax cut will primarily benefit lower and middle-income taxpayers. For example, a typical family of four with a gross income of $5,600 now pays $185 in federal income taxes. Under this tax cut plan, they would pay nothing. A family of four with a gross income of $12,000 now pays $1,260 in federal taxes. My proposal reduces that total by $300. Families grossing $20,000 would receive a reduction of $210. Those with the very lowest income who can least afford higher costs must also be compensated. I propose a payment of $80 to every person 18 years of age and older in that very limited category. State and local governments will receive $2 billion in additional revenue sharing to offset their increased energy costs. To offset inflationary distortions and to generate more economic activity, the corporate tax rate will be reduced from 48% to 42%. Now let me turn, if I might, to the international dimensions of the present crisis. At no time in our peacetime history has the state of the nation depended more heavily on the state of the world.